After the death of George Floyd, a black Minnesota resident who was strangled by a police officer, calls for action have swept the nation in protest and donations. Movements and organizations such as Black Lives Matter have been fighting for social and racial justice in the police force, government policy, and maintaining accountability, all during a national pandemic of COVID-19. Whether through recognizing the newfound purpose of social media, raising funds, education, or recognizing accountability, TCNJ students and New Jersey residents especially have been outspoken to begin conversations and to stand in solidarity in order to save innocent lives.
Everything's being taken into personal hands to advocate for ourselves because no one else is going to do it for us. When they label us as looters and rioters, just kind of to diminish our what's happening. They aren't as concrete as people think. It really just comes down to like where you are, who you surround yourself with, and why you're surrounding yourself with that person.
Maybe the people around you, you're seeing things that you've never thought you'd see before, but to not let those things kind of break down relationships, interpersonal, very close relationships in your life.
Outside of social media, people have turned to protest and candlelight ceremonies in response for reflection and action.
There's so many young people who are organizing these protests, and so it just made me feel like, well, I felt like I needed to do something.
We're definitely worried about the whole coronavirus aspect, and we also got word that there was going to be a counter protest. My brother was putting up flyers on telephone poles, and someone in the area was literally following him, like screaming at him and like ripping down the posters.
The event was a reflection, I think, of the culture in my community, but also what I hoped would be a diverse representation of different speakers. This movement shouldn't just fall onto the shoulders of Black people. It shouldn't be them just demanding equality, because this is so much more than that. It's a human rights issue.
I think there's a common argument that a lot of this is performative activism, and to some extent I do agree, but I think for people who have never had to think about this before in their lives,
a lot of people were really, really positive. I'm overwhelmingly positive. Even the people who initially were like, oh, this is gonna be violent, like you guys should be prepared to protect your property at all costs, like those guys were like, well, I'm so glad that Caldwell was peaceful this evening. I was like, yeah, me too.
When it comes to taking action at TCNJ, we look at liberal learning requirements as well as other programs.
Everything's a bit outdated at TCNJ, and I think a lot of what we're going through is just being exposed to everyone. Institution doesn't really have the checks and balances in place to make sure everyone's doing a job.
We put pressure on the administration, college leadership, or even leadership within your organization. You kind of take the personal responsibility away, and you kind of relegate it to those groups or those individuals, but you can't control what those individuals do. And everyone needs to have a personal responsibility in terms of addressing this every single day in their lives.
I think if we allowed for more flexibility within majors or integrated that in how we teach even fundamental classes of a major, that would kind of take the pressure off for people to kind of get this one liberal learning done and be done with it, because it would be instilled in the coursework from freshman year to graduation.
Dr. Adair said, I've witnessed TCNJ students being really hungry for a language or an analytic to decide what's going on in their world and how they can make it better. I do hope there will be more of a spotlight on these classes so more students on campus are aware of the offers and the work we do.
I don't think that there is enough discussion about it in schools. It really varies from school to school, and I don't think it should be like that. I think there should be some kind of national requirement. I think it would help us be more global citizens.
Long after the marches are over, how are people planning on educating each other in order to mobilize toward the goal of true racial equality? TCNJ organizations plan to educate their own members as well as fellow students by integrating the value of racial equality into their clubs as well as through social media campaigns. All College Theater allowed me to sit in on their discussion for what they plan to do for this upcoming fall and beyond.
And so the next steps in the social media campaigns that we're doing are highlighting Black artists in theater.
Even though the campus community and culture will appear differently next semester due to flex and remote learning, TCNJ students and faculty are still working hard to make these human rights issues known and to bring reform on the campus community and into our world. I'm Nancy Bound from LTV News, signing off.